Salone del Mobile and Stir present Design Voices, Think Next, produced by Dog Ear.
Welcome to the live podcast from Salone del Mobile Milano.
We are Amit Gupta, Editor-in-Chief of Stir, and William Bagnoli and Charlotte Bräuer of QA Studio. What's happening today? What are the ideas spreading in the fair? Follow us and let us meet the protagonist.
Welcome, Beatrice. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you, Beatrice. I'm delighted to have you as part of Salone and Stir Design Voices. You're a very strong voice in the creative community. A small introduction for our readers on who you are. Beatrice Leanza's social biography reads as creative director, curator, critic, professional transformer, founder of the global school Beijing. She's also the executive director of the Museum of Art, Architecture and Technology in Lisbon, and a cultural strategist who wears many hats, but most importantly, that of making sense of connection between art, design, movement, cultures, people, technology, and global social and political landscape. Thank you for being with us today.
Very accurate introduction. Thank you very much for having me. Although I have to point out one thing. I am actually, I concluded my directorship at MAT and I am moving next, but I cannot tell you where yet.
Okay. We will look forward to that news. We'll stay tuned.
Yes.
Super curious. Beatrice, I'm taking over. Amit. I wanted to stop by this social media bio that you wrote, maybe for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
In which sense are you a transformer, a professional transformer?
More than a person has asked me that. It was like on the spur of a moment. I think I wrote that because first of all, I work now mostly with design and architecture, like in a very expanded sense and field. But, I was trained as an Asian art historian, and I started my career in contemporary art. I wrote my dissertation about Chinese contemporary art. So to a certain extent, I come from another field out of research and interests and my life experience. As you know, I lived 17 years in Beijing. My explorations, in the field of culture and creativity really took on, different positions and experiences. Of course, yes, always within, the cultural field. But I have really sort of put myself in very different contexts, running independent art spaces, in archives, running my own company, running a large scale, public festival like Beijing Design Week. For many years I was the creative director there until, running institutions. So, and I think that this transformative character is something that is common to anyone that kind of work with creativity. So it's just that I am, making a living out of it. So, so I guess that comes from that.
I feel you completely. I think I'm a transformer too in some sort, in my small scale. But staying on this question, do you think you're also a transformer in the sense that you're helping transform and shape the audience of the outcome of your shows or the world around us?
Well, I certainly hope so. Otherwise, it would be a little bit of a waste of everyone's time. No, yeah. I mean, if I was having a conversation not long ago with a friend, a designer, who invited me actually to do a conversation a little bit like this on a podcast. And this question came up and he was like, that's totally true. It's like, we did a project together where you took me to do this and that, which is something that I never did. What I mean is that I really enjoy in my job, yes, to kind of push people to really collaborate, come together in a way that whatever is being created is wider and larger than who and what they are. And so, yes, that's a transformative experience then for everyone involved. But I think it's really because I believe my job is that. Like I wouldn't do it differently, Like, I mean, I'm not a writer. I don't do it's not a solipsistic type of practice. Yes. So definitely it's both ways, let's say.
Now, as a museum authority, you've told us in past that you are against imposing hierarchical and programmatic blueprint, and you would rather allow change and creative adaptation. How can inclusive and adaptive practices bring the best of worlds in design? And can you share that with an example?
Well, I think I work in a field that if we weren't doing that, people working with institutions of culture, then we would be a little bit useless. And I've been a strong advocate of how I think institutions have to be places with purpose. And I think I've done it not just at MAT, I think it was before also. When I was in Beijing, I mean, you have to think that I lived in an era there that was completely transformational for both the Chinese people and the world, right? So it's a moment when old paradigms started being bent. And so there was a lot of potential, there to, bring design, and creative practices in a way into action, so make design actionable. And in that sense, for sure, Beijing Design Week was perhaps the beginning of it. We worked a lot with in collaboration with Hutong historic districts, right? So these are the most, part of town that are the most affected. The communities of these towns, of these neighborhoods are really affected by the process of rapid urbanization. So we really succeeded in bringing together the public, the private, and the civic sector and the creative sector together, but really with an attempt to work on the long term. So I think it started there.
Nice.
And it continued. I opened a school. I opened the Global School, which is a project that it's not really a school, of course. It's a pun to a certain extent, but it was really about pushing forward a different pedagogical model for how to put design in action, design practitioners thinking, how to let them inform processes of basically enacting change in a pragmatic sense. And I think that that's coming with me all the time. I don't think I do it purposely. I mean, if I'm asked,
No, that's very important direction, simply because with the changing mindset and the changing human behavior, which has rapidly changed in the last few years, an adaptation there is extremely, and breaking the mold is extremely needed.
I agree, totally, yes. And it's a hard job to do, but, someone's got to do it.
Somebody has to start somewhere.
Totally.
Yeah.
You mentioned pedagogy. I'm a father of a small kid, and I bring her along to what I'm doing, exhibition shows, and sometimes she enjoys that, and some other times it's super interesting when she has her own vision, and so it's interesting to listen to her when she gives me the tour of the exhibition, the interpretation, and so on. What's the biggest challenge for you when pedagogy meets then the public and the public engagement, whether we are in a museum or an exhibition or?
I don't know if it's a challenge. I don't perceive it really as a challenge. I think that that's what museums do in a way, like finding ways of engaging with as many publics as possible, generationally, unknown. And, frankly, we're having this kind of conversation with another guest of your podcast exactly yesterday, with someone else that runs in an institution. And, now there is a little bit the tyranny of diversifying publics. So this is now an obsession, it's on everyone's, lips. So it's a reality, but this is a reality for everything and everyone, meaning that it is for Netflix or it's for any streaming platform as it's for, concert venues, and et cetera, et cetera. So I think that it's always about working with a purpose, and then, what do you want to do with that? I don't think that there is no perfect formula to that. So the only thing you can do is to really, choose the stories you want to champion, the topics you want to work with, and then, creatives have all sorts of solutions in mind for being public engagement with kids or specific groups, specific interest groups. It's I find that actually very enriching. My favorite part in running an institution is actually getting engaged with public programming.
You also believe that the only rule that space presents is a duality of light and darkness. And taking that further into the diverse cultures and international socio-political conflicts, and how can design will help bring out the best of these duality, or rather heterogeneity, through the electric creative generated humanity issues we're facing today?
Yeah, it's a big question. But to a certain extent, I think there is a lot of plurality in the world of design already, in terms of, it's kind of characteristically, shape-shifting nature, like it's a discipline that everyone is always trying to capture and define, and largely failing, or just because actually it's a discipline that transforms a lot. And this, I think, kind of then really speaks to a moment like the one we are living in now, where, notions of fluidity are really part of, the current zeitgeist, So I think that there is that diversity already embedded a bit in the world of design, and in that sense, I think a push to not so much to find solutions. So I don't like to speak of design as solution, like making or question shaping,
or a problem solver,
or problem solving, exactly. But certainly, I think what's emerging now is it's research driven, ethos, and I think that this is because it's really, for what I see, from around, is that there is really desire to kind of understand better the world we live in, like the good and the bad, what we impinge, on it. I think younger kids, younger generations are very much into that, because to find meaning. It's about, I think design really helps kind of excavating meaning out of things. So I think that by definition, it is already so. It's already attempting to do so, right? So it's at its best, design is really good storytelling, and then if you can enact change, all the better. But you've got to get the story right. Yeah.
About storytelling and about the future, since our hashtag or motto is Think Next. What's the next story you're going to tell the public? Are you working on some specific project?
Well, no, I cannot tell you the next one because it's under wraps. But no, but I mean, I think that there are topics that I've always kind of worked on, in the past, but certainly in the past few years, that are always there for me, right? So a lot of most recent also exhibitions or programs, things that I've been programming and doing with Matt, but even talks that I'm curating, they always take this sort of purposeful, socially impactful, kind of aspect into consideration. We have done a lot of work around eco-politics, artistic and creative practices, and forms of dealing with environmentalism or ecological degradation and, climate transformation from really a wide set of academic, vantage points. and really ranging from the sciences, like to anthropology, philosophy, etc. So we have done a lot at MAT. That was a very big component of what we were doing, and it was incredible because we really were able to bring together from the architects, designers, so the so-called creative, like sector people, with activists, with people that work with remote communities, or again philosophers that are really kind of coming to shape, and trying to define this moment we are in, because we've got to try to fix and understand where we are, to project ourselves next. So there is such a vitality now around these topics. Of course, it's not just the emergency. It's not about It's not about the emergency of climate, but it's really about the emergence of something new. And actually, this was the title of a program that we were running at MAT. So from climate emergency to climate emergence. And it really tackled this. So what possibilities we have. So this is a big commitment for me. It's a topic that I always work with. Yes.
Nice. There are a lot of shows or products out there. There are a lot of point of views. People are trying to spread positivity or spread awareness, spread negativity in the sense of explaining that it is an emergency. We have to react now. And sometimes people, the public, take it back and take it very bad. Are you trying to keep being positive and you want to spread positivity in the next future, or you want to, I don't know, say being very strong and say no?
I'm an angry optimist.
Okay, perfect.
So totally.
Thank you for putting it into words for me.
Yes. So it's no, and I mean it's quintessentially, the definition of my job is about believing into the future. I mean, otherwise I would be an archivist. So no, absolutely. I mean, and there is so much. And the talk that we are doing, I'm doing here at Salone, for Salone this year, they didn't ask me really a specific topic. I mean, they just wanted me to talk with technology or about technology at some level.
Right.
But then, I'm sure like the people that I have invited, for this talk. But it's really essentially speaking of this. So it's really how there's, in fact, a lot of energy being put by, people in the expanded design sector into helping us transition out of this feeling of hopelessness, like of subjugation, like of being sort of subordinate to the times we live in, so to the big systemic forces that shape things. Agency can come from everywhere. So, and I think these people are completely like an embodiment of this attitude. So, but you have to really push the vision far out to have an emotional response. And that's what they're doing. I think that their work is fantastic. So I think that speaks a lot to the alternatives that we have,
And taking the next forward, or think next thought forward, what do you expect from the fellow curators and creators and educators in the universe you operate in?
Big question, and one whose reply perhaps would put me in trouble with my colleagues. But no, I mean, I can't. Of course, like there's so many different roles, like that you need to. Not roles. Sorry, the wrong word. I mean, I think that it's such a critical and interesting moment. I think it's time to really focus, to pick up a challenge, and just stick with it. So it's to stay with the problem, and but it's there's a lot to do, like for sure. I mean, like I was having another conversation this week around this type of changing, like design becoming really pluriversal, right? Like so this ontological turn of social sciences, design, etc. And the point is that from different perspectives, be I don't know, like the cultural institutional world or the educational, system, or even the politics, of it, there's something to be transformed radically everywhere. So, and we are really desperately in need of it. I think that people that have the privilege to work in culture, like me, because it's a privilege, should really just offer people these visions, the possibilities that transformation is a choice.
And can be realized.
Yes, and it's truly kind of practicable, like it's an avenue, it's a thing you can walk through. So for people that in universities or that I think is a front line that really needs kind of energy, like and serious rethinking. So yeah, but I think picking your problem and sticking with it would be a good way to describe it.
And you've been to Salone now. What were your expectations from this year's Salone? We come back after 3 years. What were you looking forward to?
Just seeing people, conversations, conversations that are not limited to a 40 minutes, Zoom free account, or actually not, look into the fish tank, when you're giving a talk or a lecture. To be honest, I think a lot of people would probably say the same.
And do you think Salone has successfully carried forward the thought which you have been talking about in terms of transformation or discourses on multicultural unity or balance between beauty and being consciousness?
If Salone is offering that, you mean in Milan, in town?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah.
No. This is a problem but this is probably subject of another conversation. I think Milan it's a fantastic moment. I see people here, of course, that I wouldn't see otherwise, like along the year. But I think Milan Design Week needs to find its very center again. There is something that is not clicking. It's not enough for the industry to say we are all hanging out here. Well, then we can also create another logic for if we are just hanging out. I think it's important. I think Salone needs to find its own, redress a little bit its course. Although I was very surprised that this year, these days, there were a lot of talks initiatives, like discursive events. Some of which I was part of, and I really enjoyed. Because of course it's about really, and I think they were well done, well curated. So not mentioning what, because I'm not self-promotion or nothing, but I think that some really and truly had gravitas. Yeah. And this is what you want to have, right? To a certain extent as well. We all understand this is the kingdom of industrial design, but it's not enough to think that in those terms. Yeah. And there's a lot to discuss about that too, to say about that too. So no, I think Milan remains a little bit a barren land for those that seek a deeper engagement with the meaning and the practice of design. But then you make up for people, because then we meet up. We also have conversations like this. They help, right?
Yeah,
so
and that was the idea behind lending, making the voices like yours reach people and make people think and probe thinking.
Yeah, no, and thanks for doing it. It's really important.
Yeah, but thank you for being here with us today.
So much.
You are truly an angry optimist person, and I've loved that two words of yours. Thank you on behalf of Salone, Stir and Dog here. We thank you for being with us, and thank you for lending your voice.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Ciao.